So, like what we read online, there's all about, being in your feminine energy and then, the man being in his masculine. So you have to let him lead. You have to trust him. And also like when a man tells you like, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of you, just trust me. So the word is trust, right?
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
So I think trust is beautiful, but trust does not equate financial literacy. They're not the same thing. Okay, if I could challenge it further, does that mean that you define or you understand feminine energy as just sit back and be passive?
Yeah.
Is that how you feel it?
To be honest, I mean, just being vulnerable on this podcast, I think with Pia and I 100% echo what you just said about, the whole 50-50 doesn't work.
Yeah.
Literally, it really doesn't work. And I think with Pia and I is that we've always said this, that we want to be very open with each other.
Yeah.
And have very honest conversations, as painful as it can be. Because sometimes when you hold things within yourself, what is going to happen is you're just going to build up resentment. But at the same time, one part that I think maybe men, we operate a little bit, sometimes we're operating too much in our logical head. That means 1 + 1 = 2. Okay, this is this, this is this. So even when Pia would bring up and talk to me about certain things, the initial old me would be straight away, okay, what's the solution? I'm going to fix this now, pop. But as opposed to actually being the partner who's actually hearing out. So I definitely 100% agree when you talked about the whole 50-50 doesn't exist. And it's said that today in marriages and people, money has been brought in as the primarily deciding factor in things. As opposed to, as you mentioned, there's actually so many other things, for example, from women with what you guys would do, which you're right, it's amazing. It is 25 job portfolios, which is not really written in one job JD.
Yeah.
If it, So I just wanted to echo and just say that I think it's 100% spot on. It's no way it's going to be 50-50. Each person takes, load. But I think the important part of this is that we must always remember it's a partnership between two people.
Yeah.
And being there with each other and helping each other through the goods and whatever the times.
Yeah, and just asking that person, is this what you actually want? Right? Like sometimes I feel like women, okay, like example, like now they are dual income earners. Like what I see a lot is dual income earners. The moment the woman is pregnant, it's automatically, okay, you don't have to work anymore. Nobody asks her, what about your business or your career, your job? Is it going to be difficult for you to get back to the workforce?
Yeah.
Like, do you even want that? What about your independence? What about your friends? What about your colleagues? What about just your social life?
Yeah.
So I feel like we just assume that that's what she wants.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you are right about nobody actually even asking the women, right? We talk about 50-50. Let's dig a bit deeper, right? What's your take on 50-50 with bills, eating out?
Yeah. I know some people feel that, and I'm speaking from like a women's point of view, right?
Okay.
Oftentimes, I've spoken to a lot of educated women with big paychecks and all of that, and they somehow feel that it will be insulting if they don't split down to the bill because they feel that it indirectly measures their worth and what they are able to bring to the table, and they don't want to be mistaken that they can't afford it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So the reaction is always, we should be able to pay everything equally because I want you to know that I can do it. But I think that's a mistake because I think it's more of a reaction about insecurity and a reaction that lashes out to say that I'm trying to prove myself. So I don't think there's a hard and fast rule with something like, when you go out and eat together, do you go Dutch or do you, pay? I think a lot of the dynamics of the relationship, the other aspect actually decide on how the bill should be played. And I would think that some are in a position where perhaps the men provide, and therefore it's my job to pay all the bills whenever we eat out, because then you contribute in other ways that I can't. So, and that works out to be fine too. So I don't think you need to be able to split the bill, And the question is, why do you feel the need to do that? Is it because you have something to prove? And the question is that the way to do it?
What happens if it's does it come off as a very tick for tack if it is like, if it's a spouse and, husband and wife, maybe one meal is taken by the husband, one meal is taken by the wife. How does that come off?
Yeah, I think there's no hard and fast rule to it. You can be very flexible. You can come up with an arrangement as long as both parties agree to it. What really doesn't work out at the end of the day when there's a backlash is that I went in with an assumption and I felt taken advantage of. Or I felt like I'm getting a bad end of the deal. That's when things don't work. Because you can split everything down to dollars and cents. Let's just say we do that 50-50. Again, we go back to the argument. Dollars and cents wise, we are now equal. But then what about all the other things?
Yeah.
So if you are resentful and bitter because you feel that you are getting a bad end of the deal, then oftentimes the bigger question is not really because you didn't split your bills. It's because you feel that somehow in the dynamic of the relationship, you are not having equal power, that you are in a lesser position. And it's playing out this way.
Yeah.
Because then it wouldn't just be about money.
Yeah.
It will be about, the decisions about the kids, or like where do we go for Chinese New Year? Is it your parents or mine? It will be down to every single decision. Who gets a better car, you or me? Because then it's a bigger problem. Yeah.
So true. Like, you mentioned earlier a little bit about in the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned how a lot of men usually tell women like, oh, don't worry, I'll take care of you, just trust me. So the word is trust, right?
Yeah.
It's quite contradictory. And I'm always trying to figure out what I think about this as well. But I just wanted to hear your point of view. So when we often say, when the man says, trust me, so, like what we read online, there's all about, being in your feminine energy and then, the man being in his masculine. So you have to let him lead. You have to trust him. So I know that there's truth in that as well. Of course, women, we are supposed to be in our feminine and all of that. Not every time. I believe that it's not wrong to be in your masculine energy as well at times, especially if you're at work, in a professional setting and things like that. But I think that it's a balance, right? But what is your take on who should take the financial lead? And also like when a man tells you like, okay, trust me, and if you actually start asking questions about the finances, and when you demonstrate that you distrust him, in other words, and then that coming back to the fact that, oh, you're trying to wear the pants, or you're trying to control the finances, you're acting like a man.
Yeah.
So what's your take on that?
Okay. So first of all, I think trust is a beautiful thing in a relationship. And I think a lot of basis of that relationship is formed on trust. Because you don't get to communicate everything and you have a lot of external factor that might jeopardize the relationship on and off throughout every season of your life. And trust is the fundamental thing that hold on to it. I'm a recipient of a trust relationship. So I know how that works and I benefit from it. So I think trust is beautiful, but trust does not equate financial literacy. They're not the same thing. Okay? And trust cannot be that because I trust you, therefore I'm going in blind. I have no idea. And I want to stay that way because I trust you. Because that's vulnerability dressed up as intimacy. That somehow you have confused the currency of how you operate as a love language with what you actually know and don't know. Okay? So going back to the feminine energy, I am all for feminine energy. I think it is true that at times, operating outside of that makes women feel so frustrated, right? And therefore, if you think, oh, but if I start getting a little bit more intelligent about my money, if I start asking the right question, then I'm trying to wear the pants, I'm trying to be in charge, and I'm trying to wrestle that masculine energy from his hands and then taking it on me, and I'm going to be really stressful. I'll tell you what's really stressful, because if you remain ignorant for a very, very long time, one day you will wake up. And when you wake up, you will be in a position of disadvantage because you have neglected it for so long, while being really upset at the same time, and then scramble to do what it takes to get on your feet. That is when you forgo your feminine energy and then you become fully masculine. Just because you know a little bit about finance doesn't automatically turn you into a man. Those two things are unrelated. You do not embody masculine energy just because you're knowledgeable about something. Treat finance like any other job. If you know how to change a tire, does that make you a man? It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, if you can
That's
pour your own
you-
gas.
Yeah.
If you are the
Yeah.
one, handling the finance simply because you're more financially literate between the both of you,
Yeah.
does that make you the one wearing the pants? No.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't think that way because they are unrelated. And just because, then goes back to the assumption, if I could challenge it further, does that mean that you define or you understand feminine energy as just sit back and be passive? Is
Yeah.
that how you feel it? Because perhaps your definition of feminine energy is
Have no
less,
care in the world.
yeah, has
like-
less to do with empowerment
Yeah.
and more
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
with just maybe being a reception of things.
Yeah.
Then in that case, if you just receive and you have no control, you're completely helpless. And if
Yeah.
you're helpless, you're really not embodying feminine energy
Yeah.
because you're not being the best version of who you are.
Yeah. I think that's the like when I read stuff online, how they yes, they do equate feminine energy with being the receiver and the male energy with being the giver, right? So I think a lot of times women do confuse themselves, and I think it's supposed to be like, oh no, it's okay, I'm just receiving. I'm in my feminine energy. I just want to receive.
And my
Yeah.
reply to that was that, so let me think about what I need and let me articulate that need well enough so that you can understand, and let me show you how I can better receive. Now give. I am all
Ladies-
about feminine energy.
Ladies, take note. Ladies, take note of what Nicole just said.
Let's just, if we dive a little bit deeper in this, right? Can a woman choose to be provided for and still be empowered?
Yes.
At what point does this provision become controlled?
Okay. So you can be provided for because that is not within your control. Who instigate the provision? The other party. You're the reception, right? You're the receiving party. So therefore you can be provided for, and that is that's not entirely up to you. It's up to the person who's giving. But at the same time you can be empowered because that is within your control to be empowered. And that is your job and your responsibility to be empowered. So therefore you can have both without conflict.
It's very well said.
Yeah, that's very well said. I think it's because like we often always assume that okay, the moment I'm being provided for, it basically means that I think there's a difference between a man wanting to provide versus a woman being able to provide for herself,
Yeah.
and these two can coexist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So a good way to look at it is that let's play a couple of different scenarios. What if that arrangement changed? Because the provision can change, isn't it? You talk about, at what point does provision becomes control, right? So let's play a couple of different scenarios. When things are going well, you're being provided for in a way that's willing by a willing party who's generous and is good and loving towards you, and you receive all of that. While at the same time, you're empowered in your own way. And if that situation changed for whatever reason, let's go back to the 4Ds, Yeah. And if any of that hit, right, disease, debt, and the situation change, will the provision change? In some ways it will, because the person who's providing can no longer do what they promised to do, okay? And your provision would change. So you can't always expect that I will have this as it is, because you are only looking at your current scenario.
Yeah.
You're only looking
Yeah.
at your present scenario. One of the things that I do in my job is I throw you in all kinds of scenario. What if? What if? What if this changed? How would that look like? And if you're able to have answers for all of that, then you know that you are empowered. Then you know that you've got it. Because if all of the external circumstances that is not within your control change, and you are prepared to face them and have a response plan to them, then you're in a better position. Because when it is dependent on someone to give that to you, and when that condition change, which leads to the second question, when provision becomes control, then what do you do? If you put terms on the provision, if there are limitations, if there are rules, and the rules keep changing and they keep updating, if it's all about, let me see how high you can jump this month, and I'll give that a call. That's not provision.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just provision that's dressed up as condition. You know, it's just a means to an end. It's a way to use to control you. That's when provision shifts. Yeah.
Well said.
Well
Well
said,
said.
yeah.
And just, I think it's the good part for us to bring in a little bit now about like motherhood. You know, like when we talk about earlier, we touched on it a little bit, right? But I guess my question is, how does motherhood? So somebody now deciding, okay, like I'm putting my job on pause. I'm taking a step back. How does motherhood change the entire dynamic? So, for example, a couple who has been, dual income earners and everything is in a way 50-50, not directly, but more like, okay, maybe one person pays a lot more financially and the other person does a lot more of the other forms of labor at home. And then the moment a child comes into the picture, what type of conversations do you think these couples should have? Because the truth of it is that it cannot be 50-50 in child rearing as well, right? So how does this then, when motherhood comes into the picture, how does this alter the entire dynamic?
I think women don't realize that the moment you make that decision into motherhood, it will change your life profoundly and permanently, regardless of what the decision is. So different people have different ideas of how it will, like I will continue working while I have children, or I will take a step back, I will become a full-time mom, but maybe not for long, maybe only the first couple of years, in the formative years of the child, and then as soon as they go to school, I go back to work. So there could be different arrangements, right? And the scenarios might look different for different households, but it will still change you permanently.
Do you think men have the same effect?
I don't think so.
Why?
Because I think a lot of our existing conversation puts a lot of assumption on the woman to be the natural first responder of parenting. In other words, fatherhood and motherhood. Motherhood is like the first liner. So in COVID, the first liner are the people who are directly dealing with COVID while everybody stays behind.
And
It feels like motherhood is the first liner of parenthood as opposed to the father.
So you say even in situations where, we are in this 21st century, everybody is very pro co-parenting, let's do it 50-50. Do you still see a gap?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it happens a lot because it's assumed. So if the school, if your child is in trouble, okay, or if your child is not well and the school needs to call the parents, they will always call the mother. Doesn't matter if you're working or not. Doesn't matter if you're presenting to the board. You have to go because it's your child. But they never call the father. If you're in a court case, which I'm sure you're much more familiar than I am, if you're in a divorce settlement and you're looking at child custody, how does the ruling work? It's always the mother. Why? Because the role of the mother is more than just being one part of the parent. It has everything. It's the nurturer, it's the protector, it's the giver, it's the one that provides stability. That's why the custody always goes to the mother. It's the one that's able to care for the child, because we associate so much of that parenting responsibility to the mother versus the father. The father just simply brings home the bacon or brings home the check.
Would you then say that women as well, so me just trying to dig even deeper, right? So do we give men equal opportunity to show up then? Or do we, because we assume that role, do we then say, okay, you're not going to be able to do, because I hear this a lot with my clients, right? He doesn't even know how to change a napkin. I'm not even going to bother. But sometimes I wonder, like, but you didn't even give him a chance. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just, devil's advocate here, So just speaking on behalf of the, So just wondering, so what do you think that, women, we don't even give them a chance?
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
So let's just have a bit of fun here, okay?
Okay.
Sometimes the situation is so bad in some marriages that it's not that you don't want to let them try. It's that even the exercise of educating them so that they can come to the level of competency to try is in itself an extra exercise. Okay? So one of the things that we just a little bit of fun that we talk about is that if I have 2 kids, right? So technically I have 3, because my eldest is adopted from my mother-in-law, and a lot of wives will feel that way.
For a minute I paused and then I was like, I got it. Okay, we were a bit slow first.
It feels like you have an extra child.
Okay.
And then you have to like, because when the man goes, just tell me what to do. It's not that simple because you don't know how to do it. And I can teach you how to do it, but then it also takes a lot of mental load for me to then sit down and show you and hold your hand and teach you how to do it so that you can do the very thing which I have done in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And do I want that? And to be fair to the women, no. Hell no, because you know why? Because you can look up a YouTube video on how to change diaper, but you're not doing it because you're still placing the burden of the project management back to me, except that now you're one of the element of the project. So you have not, men, please listen, you have not elevated me in any way. You have not brought me any relief. You have only added to my existing task when you do that.
Okay, men take note. Yeah, no, but I get what you mean, and I hear that a lot. Like when I speak to a lot of women, like, you know, what was their turning point? I ask them that you want to exit this marriage, and they often tell me the same thing. Is like, oh, you have no idea. I feel so invisible. I'm sick of it, and the frustration is so intense. Versus when I speak to male clients, when they walk into the room, well, they do have their grievances as well, but it's very different. It never comes back to the same thing, right? It's never about not being seen or my efforts are not appreciated. Well, there are a couple, of course, but if I'm gonna, you know, measure it, I would say that oftentimes for women, it's always that emotional labor that's just unrecognized.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also because I think depending on the context of where you live geographically, your culture, your beliefs, you know, the system of beliefs that holds you together. Some people live in an invisible patriarchal society where man is seen to be embodied certain things or to have a certain position, and women are relegated certain roles naturally because they think that's the order of the universe, for example. And so you are put into a position where it's not your choice to determine the scope of your work, but it's just given to you. The only difference and the only reason why this comes up over and over again in conversations like this is because despite the limitation, women are oftentimes very, very resourceful. So they hit above their targets, they go above their means, and they branch out more, and they turn that role into something that's worth talking about. And that is why the conversations come up, because women do that.
Yeah.
What would it be, you know, financial truths that many women avoid because they feel it's very just uncomfortable?
Love is not a financial plan. Yeah. And things
like
can
that.
change. Yeah. So it's good that, I mean, I'm not knocking on people with good relationships. There are people with very, very good solid foundations. They're off to a good start. They have a great relationship. Their dynamics are amazing. They do stuff together. And then 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, they're still on it. So there are people like that.
Yeah.
Right? They've got it right. And then there are people who might not have the same, might not share the same picture. But I think women often avoid disrupting because anything that they see that challenges the norm is seen as disruption. And women are taught traditionally growing up not to disrupt. Don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
Don't shake things. Don't, you know, because when a man does it, it's heroic. But when a woman does it, no one's going to marry her.
Oh my God. Amen. Amen to that.
Look at her, you know, that kind of attitude. Where is she going to find a man, you know? As if that is the ultimate goal and worth that a woman should have, right? So I think that's one of the things that women need to take up more courage to do so.
And what's one mistake you think women make oftentimes with money?
I think women often operate on assumptions and not facts. So when things change, like when the 4Ds happen, right, and they wake up, oftentimes they realize that they were assuming a lot of things on their own, in their head. And those assumptions were not tested because they were not brought up. And for fear that, you know, if we bring it up, then it sounds like, I don't love you, or I don't trust you. So I don't want to, you know, go into all that uncomfortable position, right? And then you realize that one by one, those assumptions were just taken away. that they fall and they cannot stand because you have not been operating on facts. You don't actually have facts, you have assumptions. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that women always make as a mistake is that they get a shock when they come to our office and they have some private conversations, and then you can see the look on one of their face when they were not on the same page. So that happens, you know, and so if you have regular conversations, they will come up too, you know, but you will have a regular way to fix it. You will be able to just adjust and wait, I didn't know that's what you were thinking. What, isn't that what you were thinking? You know, I just assumed that if anything happened to me, you're happy to move in with your mother-in-law and the kids and have everybody under the roof. No.
Yeah.
But I assumed that was okay because I would have done that. See?
Yeah, assumptions over the facts.
What does every woman need to know, even if she has a generous and trustworthy partner?
Yeah. Generosity and trustworthiness are character traits, and they are great. Okay, and you need that in the fundamental of your marriage. And just because you want to get hold of your finances and structure things a little bit differently or have better control over it, it doesn't mean that you're accusing your partner of not being generous and you are betraying their trust. I would go further to say, if you really have so much confidence in your marriage and you really think that your husband, for example, is generous and trustworthy, which I can testify to that because that's the kind of marriage that I have, where, you know, husband is generous, husband is trustworthy, then take it a step further. He wouldn't be opposed to you having a better idea about your finances.
Yeah, that's so true. It comes in hand, right?
Because he's a generous guy, right?
Correct.
And if he really takes care of you, if he really trusts you, then he wouldn't object to you being more financially literate.
Yeah. Yeah.
He wouldn't like oppose to the idea that you save up for a rainy day or have a plan B if any of this situation. Again, the 4 Ds, you know, if any one of them hit, would he be against it? Because he is the good guy, right? That you operate in your head and assume.
Yeah.
So let's put that to the test.
Yeah, correct.
And let's find out the facts about it. But if you try to bring that up and then things get a little bit uncomfortable, then you have a sense of reality of what you are actually dealing with.
True.
And I think that's an important question to ask yourself.
Yeah. True, because I think oftentimes is the way somebody reacts to a question can tell a lot about what they think as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. Because
Yeah.
if you have a good partner, then why would he object to the well-being of your future and your security?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a good partner.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like
You absolutely do.
Yeah, he encourages me and empowers me like financially. It's like he's never ever asked me to like my business is equally important. Me wanting to prioritize my career is equally important. So it's never been a conversation where I'm assumed. I have to assume that I'm the one that's going to have like that. We've had conversations about when we have kids and stuff. I've sent him like a 3-page Word document to fill up with about how things might change, what's his expectation. And I was so surprised when I got the answers. All of it was like, what do you want? How do you feel about it? Yeah, which I think is amazing. I think that's what women want at the end of the day is to be able to make choices. I think what's being robbed off a lot of women is the ability to make choices. It's not wrong if you want to be a stay-at-home mom. It's not wrong if you want to go out there and run 10 companies, but I think you need to be given the choice. I think that's important.
And I also believe it's very important. Always have all the tough conversations.
Yeah, so true.
Don't sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, I don't know, I think in our context in Asia, we live in a culture where money is associated to an honor and shame society. Like it is an honor and shame concept. Like if we talk about money, it's very crass. It's very, you know, not elegant to talk about money. So you don't. And then there are times where if I don't have money or if I'm in a situation where I'm a bit tight, I'm ashamed that somehow my lack of money is associated to my identity and my worth. And this is how we treat money. But I tell you that, you know, because the only time, that I've seen Asians family talk about money openly are people with high net worth, especially if the situation is such where the children are daughters. then their fathers would come in and said, this is what you do. You set up a trust. You protect yourself. I have money set up aside for you and your children, and you'll be fine. If your situation change, your marriage change, this is what you can expect. And they would teach their daughters, this is what investment is. This is what pension is. This is what it means to have multiple assets. This is what it means to have liquid assets, non-liquid assets, which you can't like cash out immediately. This is what it means to have things for a rainy day, for an emergency fund. This is how long it should be. These are the kind of conversations that should not be limited to people with a lot of money. Correct. Oftentimes we think that we should talk about money when we have a lot of it. No, everyone should be talking about their money, regardless of how much their net worth is. It's irrelevant. You should be teaching your kids about money at every opportunity that you can.
Yeah.
So my kids, my oldest at the moment is dabbling with trying to build his own portfolio for investment. He has to have a framework in place, where like a simple pie chart, and he earns some money, how much of it goes into saving, how much of it goes into spending, and he has something called a joy fund where he buys Lego, that's like for his pleasure. But then he also have like investment, and he has all of this put into place. He's got an EPF account, so he understands that pension gets contributed, when he works for an employer and stuff like that. And then I have a younger one who is special need, and he may have a simpler structure when it comes to finances, but he understands that I need to exchange labor, or I need to exchange something in return for a wage. So he would read, and then we would give him money for reading, because that way he will be able to increase the vocabulary, and he build a habit on reading while at the same time make some sort of loose change money, But then when he always wants more, and then we will challenge him, where do you think you can make money? How would that look like for you?
Wow, that's
even
amazing.
though he's young, and then he start thinking that way. And so you can do all of this with your children, and you can change their lives. It's got nothing to do with how many houses you have, or, how much you have in the bank, because if everybody is raised in a way that makes them more financially literate, we would be able to sidestep so many painful mistakes. A lot of the painful mistakes come because people are put into unfair situation where they don't know what's coming, and they're just doing their best to respond to it with however limited the resources that they have, or the knowledge that they have. Like if I look back, I kind of think, I wish someone told me this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I wish someone told me this 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I wish I knew about this sort of thing, because then it would have changed my life. And I think we have the opportunity to kind of like do that with the young.
Yeah.
We can do that from here on, because that would change everything for them.
So true. So
true.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
We have come now to a very interesting part at the end of our segment, which is what we call the lightning turns.
Okay.
All right. So how it's going to be is that I'll ask you a question, and
Short
there's a
answers.
short answer that you'll throw back at me. All right.
Okay.
So let's get it started. One money belief that women need to unlearn.
One money script that they need to unlearn. Money has no moral to it. If you place a moral to money, you see good money and bad money. You see how money ought to be spent for good things and bad things, not according to what you want, but according to what you think other people expect of you. And that's a mistake. Throw that money script out. Yeah.
One financial red flag in a relationship that people ignore.
Ooh. Juicy.
Do not think that the love language of your relationship is in any way tied to your money. Because everything else should go first. Your character trait, your beliefs, how much you're willing to put into the relationship in terms of commitment, but money should be the last thing that goes in. Because hold back as much as you can for yourself until it's absolutely necessary to also put money on the table. But don't let that be the first thing, because that will define all of your relationship.
That is so good advice.
Yeah. One thing every woman should know before marriage.
Marriage is a season of your life and an addition to your life. It shouldn't take away what you already have. and morph you into something else. You can grow with marriage. You can evolve with it. You become a better version of you. But you should never lose who you are in a marriage. Marriage shouldn't take from you in a way that leaves you with less. Because if that situation change, in other words, if marriage come and go, you should be where you are when you started, no less.
One truth about 50-50 that people don't want to hear.
It works on a spreadsheet and only in a currency that you can measure. So dollars and cents is something measurable. You can do that 50-50, absolutely. But you have no way of splitting equally to feel that you are not taken advantage of on all the other unspoken and non-tangible load of the relationship.
Teh ice limau or Milo ice?
Teh ice,
Nasi lemak or roti canai.
roti canai.
Oh, nice. Okay, me too. Roti canai. Yeah.
Are you a morning person or an afternoon?
I'm a night person, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Nice. So
Interesting.
you're most productive at night.
I think so.
So you work better at night.
Yeah, I have a lot of ideas that come to me when I can't sleep, and then I would have to jot down, and I would start planning things at night. I
Nice.
know, it's
nice,
very
nice.
weird. I know.
No, I think it's a very interesting.
I
you know,
also
how
never
people
like
function in
properly
different-
sleep ever since I become a mom. I think that part of me is slightly broken, so I never really like.
Have deep
Yeah.
sleep and all that.
Yeah,
Okay, so I better catch up on all the sleep I can get.
that's right.
All right. Okay. Oh, that was such an amazing session, Nicole. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Like every single thing that you mentioned, I'm just going in my head like, oh my God, like that is so true. That is so accurate. And I honestly believe that all our viewers and our listeners will highly benefit from hearing what you shared. So any of you, if you would like to connect directly with Nicole, we will share her contact details in our episode description. Once again, Nicole, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today.
Here's the turning points that shaped us.